Hello everyone, welcome back to another Roblox tutorial. So, what are we going to be doing today? Well, of course, by the title you can already tell we're on to part 2, and that's from part 1. And speaking of part 1, if you have not watched part 1 yet, I recommend you do, because you're going to need to on the SpooksHD channel. So, we're going to go ahead and say a few things. So, where we last left off was where we had the GUI. And we indexed a variable for the main GUI. And that happened to work the way we wanted it to. So, we're going to go ahead and continue that because we need to still set it up. So, let's go back to our familiar environment, the NPC module. And let's go ahead and start setting up that GUI, shall we? So, we're going to go ahead and do GUI. Oh, and you know what? My cursor's a bit gone, so let me just re-exit that. There we go. So, GUI.alert.center.letter.text is equal to string.upper. And we're going to go ahead and do settings.key. Now, you may be asking, well, Spooks, why are you going to be doing it this way? Well, mainly because we're going to be setting it, because if you look at your keyboard, most likely the keys are in an uppercase font. And from this, we go ahead and say, well, let's just make it familiar to the keyboard, make it look like a key. And so that's what we want to do here. Even if it's lowercase or uppercase, we want to make it uppercase every time. And we're going to do this the same here. So GUI.message.letter.text is equal to the exact same thing. And then from here, we're going to do GUI.message.center.title.text is equal to nothing. Because basically, let's say you go ahead and talk to a guy. You talk to one of your NPCs. And from there, you go ahead and start talking with him, but you see a small glimpse of the past paragraph, but then it quickly goes to nothing. So that's kind of what we're trying to stop here. So from here, we're going to go ahead and play an idle animation, but first you may be asking, well, Spooks, how do we play an idle animation? Quite simple, actually. We're going to go into modules. And we're going to go ahead and create a module script. And we're gonna name this a table called animation, and then we're gonna return this soon to be filled array, and we're gonna do function animation animate. Then we do ID and then humanoid, and actually let's go ahead and put that a comma there. So from there, basically what we're saying is we're gonna index a function named animate, and to index it, you don't use a dot, you use a colon. And then the ID variable is going to be used for the animation ID, and the humanoid is the humanoid of that object. And you might say, well, couldn't you just use animation controllers? You're right, I could use animation controllers. But for a beginner's sake, we're going to be using humanoids. Though there is not much of a performance difference in my opinion, but humanoids I tend to be good with, as well as animation controllers. So we're going to do local object is equal to instance dot new animation, and then object dot animation ID is equal to, and I'm going to paste this link in here. You could copy this if you want. We're going to do http://www.roblox.com/assetid ? ID equals, and .id basically says we're going to add in the number onto that string, so it's all in one. It's all one string. Then we're going to create a track. This is going to be given to us when we load in an animation. This is going to be giving us a play, stop, and other things added with that. So we're going to play that track, but then we're going to return it, and you'll see why we're going to return this track in a bit. Now when we play this track, it basically is saying, all right, from the load animation, once we play it, we can play this animation that was saved. And realizing you want to use humanoids is because if you're using the Roblox animation editor, not a custom one, you don't have to add in an animation controller and create a whole different rig or remove the humanoid. You can keep the humanoid, so it's much more of an efficiency, to be honest. So we're going to rename this module script animation after explaining that, and then we're going to go ahead and go back into NPC and just going to make sure this is seems valid. Yep. All right, that's good. So we're going to go back to our NPC. And from here, we're going to play an idle animation. So, of course, my cursor is gone again. Why does that happen to me? Not animation, NPC. Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and do play idle animation. And local iTrack is equal to animation. And actually, you know what? We need to state animation as a variable. So local animation equals require game.replicatedStorage.modules.animation, and also I need to get rid of that slash. So now we have an animation because when we require it, it's just going to basically return us a table in which we can index. We can go ahead and do local iTrack is equal to animation animate. And I'm going to be using the default Roblox idle animation from the default package. So that's the ID if you ever want to use that. And we're going to access the humanoid located in the NPC. And then we're going to check for the NPC's line of sight. And by doing this, we're going to do local ROS and local VOUS. And basically, these two variables are going to be used to fluctuate between showing the alert GUI, allowing it to show, and also allowing us to wave at the player. So we're going to do local render is equal to game get service, and we're going to do run service dot render stepped connect function. And from in here, let's just go ahead and add the delta time variable. Not a lot of people know this, but you can do DT between the function part for render stepped, and it'll return the delta time. Just kind of a little tip there. So basically, why you may be asking, well, Spooks, why are we making the render stepped equal to a variable called render? Well, because when we want to destroy the humanoid when the character dies, because the humanoid will still be there, basically we're just saying to ourselves, all right, well, if we ever want to disconnect this, because it's the opposite of connecting it to a function, we're going to disconnect the function so it no longer runs. That's basically why. So we want to find the magnitude between two vectors, which is two vector threes, to be honest, three-dimensional vectors. And we want to go ahead and the cross between 2 points. Sorry, I came off track. But we want to go ahead and get two positions, and we want to subtract those. So we're going to go ahead and take the NPC root part position and our position, and we're going to get the magnitude of that, which if you guys don't know what that is, it's basically this. It's kind of basically that, but that's if you're going to find two vectors, to be honest. So that's quite simple. So anyways, once we have the distance, we're going to do if not cooldown, because remember the cooldown variable we made up there, and not VOUS, then we can go ahead and say, well, we're going to do the waving thing. So if distance is less than or equal to settings.animation offset, then we can go ahead and create an array. And if you guys don't know what array is, it's basically like, let's go ahead and go in here, for example. Let's say we want to shoot a ray in our direction. We're going to shoot it forward like this. Well, we're going to start from this point, and we're going to keep going forwards. And it's going to keep going forwards on for the amount of studs you said it was going to go for, in which you will see now. So from here, we're going to go ahead and just set this to the humanoid root part of the NPC. We're going to make it equal to that position. And that's going to be its origin point, the starting point. And then we want to get its look vector, so it would look in that direction. So dot look vector times 500. And basically, it's going to be looking in this direction, and it's going to go on for 500 studs. That's kind of what we're doing there. It's direction based. So from there, we're going to go ahead and use this ray. We're going to do local object and surface position, which is the position in which it hit on the object. Workspace, find part on ray, and we're going to use ray and NPC. NPC is basically our whitelist model, and then ray is going to be the ray we use to find the object on. And like I said, when we're shooting the ray this direction, if it does hit an object, it stops. And it stops at that one point. So quite some complex math. EcoMoose kind of actually has some nice stuff on that. So we can go ahead and do if object then, because if we find an object, then we can go ahead and use that. So local target is equal to object.parent. And then from there, we can do if target find first child humanoid. And because we could have a humanoid in front. So we can go ahead and search for that model there. And if we do find it, then guess what? It is a player. And we want to use that. So cooldown is equal to true, which means we're going to have to wait. And then local track, and we're going to do local track equals animation animate, and I'm going to be using the Roblox default R15 wave animation as well. So 5077700239, and then from there we're going to do npc.humanoid once again. Now, basically, if you're using an animation that is looping, you're going to want to stop it. So, for the wave animation default R15 one, I found that 1.5 seconds usually tends to be good until we stop it. So, we're going to go ahead and do track, stop, and then we're going to do spawn function, wait settings.cooldown, because after animation cooldown, actually, sorry, cooldown time, and then we're going to do cooldown equals false. Now, you may be saying, well, Spooks, why are we doing this? Well, because basically, after the animation has played, the animation you want to play, and you don't have to put a wait here, by the way, if your track doesn't loop, we want to say, okay, we're going to wait this amount of time before we can wave to the player again. And this stops spamming over and over again, which is really nice, to be honest. So from there, that is basically all we need. So then if we just do if not vouse, then we can go ahead and do if distance is less than or equal to settings dot distance offset. Then we can do raise z GUI. And from there, we can go ahead and just do GUI dot alert tween position udemy2, and this is going to be your own dimensions, and we're going to do out, whoops, made the wrong mistake there, and this is going to be out because we are moving it out, and then it's going to be a linear 0.3 and false, and we're going to copy this as well, and and after that, actually, we're going to do rouse equals true. And then from here, if, what is it? Oh, and then else from here, we're going to do rouse equals false because, well, nothing to do. So then we're going to move it back down and it's going to go back in. And that's basically the alert. That's pretty much it. So there you go. Now you can kind of see what it looks like to do the input part. Basically, if not vouse, basically vouse is going to be our function part saying, okay, if we're not in a conversation, then you can do all this. If we're not in conversation, then you could do all this. So then we're going to do detect user input, allow for conversation. And then from here, we're going to do local input equals uis.input began. Connect function key GPE, and key is for the key code to grab the key object, and GPE is game processed event. No one rarely ever uses it. I don't know why. I don't really find a reason for it to use. So if we do if key.keycode, we want to find the key code of the key object. Then we're going to do enum.keycode. Whoops, my mistakes there. Key code, and then we're going to index in that key code, and we're going to try to find string.upper, and we're going to go ahead and find settings. Whoops, not setinf, setfunf. I can't even say it. I don't even know how it's supposed to be pronounced. Settings.key. And then if vouse does not equal true, which means that if we're not already in a conversation, then we can go ahead and do vouse equals true and rouse equals false. There you go. Now, you may be asking, well, Spooks, why are we indexing in key code, enum key code to find this? Well, because you can only, why can't you do the lowercase? Well, because it only indexes for uppercase. So that's kind of the way we're doing it here. You have to have it uppercase. So that's kind of why we're going to do it in the fail-safe way. So then from here, we're just going to go ahead and, in this case, we're going to move this back down. And the Rouse false, copying that to that, you see where I'm kind of getting to? It's kind of going to be the same thing from there. But then we're different here. And we're going to go ahead and say this. Rotate player accordingly to the NPC. And basically meaning, okay, we're going to realistically rotate you towards the NPC. It makes sense that way. So, what we're going to do is we're going to do character.humanoid root part.cframe is equal to cframe.new. And we're going to copy this. We're going to take its position. And then we're also going to do that to the NPC. And that's going to rotate it towards it because it's two vectors in which a C-frame is going to be composed of. So then we're going to do set camera position. And we're going to go ahead and do camera.camera type is equal to enum.camera type dot scriptable. And we're going to go back up here because this is going to be allowing us to use it for everything. And as you see, we're going to have these there, in which we're going to use those now. So now this is going to be camera angle class name. And if CLN, then we're just going to go ahead and do camera angle. And we're going to replace all the spawn A's down here with camera angle. Make it a bit simpler in this way. So go ahead and do that. And you know what? I didn't realize I misspelled warn back here. So let's go ahead and fix that up here as well. I misspelled warn. There we go. Fixed warn. Now we're going to go ahead and it's exactly the same thing, to be honest. And it's surprising. It's literally just camera.cframe is equal to camera angle dot primary part dot cframe. Oh, and we also need to do this part right here. Camera angle. Perfect. And then right here, it's camera.cframe equals camera angle. And then this one is just camera.cframe is equal to camera angle.cframe. And there you go. That is simply the easiest part of this. Or maybe it's the tween position. I don't know. I guess it's dependent. So now we're just going to go ahead and do stop player motion. And we're going to store these values because we're going to want to restore them when they stop a conversation. Because let's say you had custom walk speeds instead of 16. Well, then we're going to go ahead and, or each player had a different walk speed or a different jump power. Well, we'll save their jump powers and walk speeds. So character.humanoid.walk speed is equal to 0. Character.jump power is equal to 0. And not character.jump power, it's character.humanoid.jump power. And then from there, we can go ahead and just do GUI.message tween position. And from here, your own dimensions for the GUI. And we're going to do out linear 0.3 and true. And from there, we're going to wait 0.3 before we display anything. And then we're going to sort through all the messages. So in pairs, messages do. And from here, we're going to have to create a text module. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and do modules. Insert object module script. And then we're going to do local text is equal to an empty array. And then we're going to return text. Then we're going to do function text.gradual. And from here, we're going to do str and object. Now, we're going to empty array index it by using a dot, period, or a dot, and then gradual. And that's how we're going to call it. str is going to be our string, object is going to be our text object. So from here, we're going to get the length. So len is equal to string.len. And then we're going to do str. And then we're going to do for a equals 1 length and 1 do. And basically, let's say we start at 1. Let's say you do hello. 1 of that string is h. 1 2 is he. 1 3 is hel, and so on. So we want to kind of build it up word by letter by letter, kind of like in Pokemon. So we go do object.text is equal to string.sub str1 in a, and then wait. And basically this just does a quick wait time, and from there it's pretty simple from there on. So basically, let's say a is 2, then we're going to substring str is equal to hello, then it's going to be 1 to 2, which would be he, and that's what it would be equal to. The text would display he, or capital he. So that's what our text module will do. And from there, we can go back and go back to our NPC, and we can go ahead and include that. So local text is equal to require game.replicatestorage.modules.text. Now we can go back down here. We can go in here, and we can go ahead and say text.gradual b, and then we're going to go ahead and GUI.messages or .message.center.title. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and c is equal to 1, 0, negative 0.1, and we're going to decrease the, what would I say? We're going to decrease the, shoot, I'm trying to remember. We're going to decrease the letters transparency, the background transparency, and its text transparency. So just go ahead and do that. Background transparency is equal to C, and then I'm going to copy that, and then wait, and we're going to make this text stroke, or text transparency, yeah. And that's basically what we need. Then from here, we can just go ahead and do local sub input success, and then we're going to do sub input is equal to uis.input began connect function. And from here, all we have to do is if key code, and we're just going to go up here, copy this. If the key code is equal to what we want it to be, then we're just going to go ahead and say, well, sub input disconnect and success is equal to true. Now you may be asking, well, Spooks, why are you doing sub input disconnect, and why did you already create a sub input variable before and not do it like the render or the input variable? Well, the reason why we did this is because you can't disconnect a variable from the inside of a function if it's not defined beforehand. So that's why we do it. And success will be used here because we wait until the player wants to continue on. So repeat wait until success, which means repeat wait until true. We're going to do spawn function here, put it on different priority level, copy this, put this in there, tab that, and we're going to flip this around. And there you go. That's simple. Now it's going to fade in. It's going to fade out, wait for you to move on to the next message, and then it's going to fade in. And we're going to do a simple check here. If A is equal to messages, which means the current index, then we're going to go ahead and where's the message part where we move it up? Actually, I don't know where that is. I'm trying to find it. Here we go. So we're going to take this, we're going to do it here, we're going to do 1.2 instead of 0.9, because we're going to put it in, of course, once again, your own stuff. Then we're going to go ahead and copy this, and we're going to copy this, and we're going to make this equal to WS and JP, restore it back to its original. And from there, we're going to do camera.camera type is equal to enum.camera type dot custom, and then we're going to do valse equals false and GUI.message.center.title.text is equal to nothing so we could solve the problem I mentioned before. And then from here, we do our final, where we do return function iTrack stop input disconnect. Then we're going to do also render disconnect. And from here, NPC destroy. And that is about it. So now all we have to do is go back to our client. And now we just have to do some client variables. So local player equals game.players.localplayer.car is equal to player.character or player.character. Whoops, made that mistake. Character added. Wait, and basically that says, okay, if it already exists, then we receive the character. If it doesn't exist, then we wait for the character added event to fire, and then we move on. And then from here, I want to paste what I have here. And this is just to save time, by the way. Basically, you want to make a table with messages, and you kind of do it like this. And then you do workspace, find your camera C frame, which I already have. So from there, that works. And then we go ahead and do car.humanoid.died connect function. And from here, we do NPC nil, and we call that as a function. Because if you don't remember, or surprisingly you should have, in the NPC, we go ahead, and if it's the last message, we get rid of the GUI, and then we go ahead and return a function basically saying, all right, if you call our function, we will disable the whole NPC. We made a mistake here, somewhere actually. So let's go back up here. So if key.keycode UIS input began, because see, you can tell this is kind of already made a mistake. So if key, oh, this is why. So it has to be key and then GPE. That's a mistake we made in the input began on 134. Anyways, that should be it. So that should be everything that we had. Alright everyone, welcome back. You see we have a glove now here. So let's go ahead and walk in front, and as you see it does wave. So if we go over here, you could see that if we press or anything, it does nothing. But if we press E to chat, and if we press anything, it doesn't continue. But as you could see, it says welcome to Brooklyn. I'm the mayor and I'm glad you're here, and then it fades back. Subscribe to SpooksHD while you're at it. Of course, go ahead and subscribe, everyone. And that basically ends it. Now, what happens if we reset? Well, as you could see, we die, and also, well, of course, the character disappears, the NPC. So, if we go back, you could see that it still works the same way. The NPC disappeared, but everything still works with the animation cooldown and everything like that. So, hello. Welcome to Brooklyn. I'm the mayor, and I'm glad you're here. Subscribe to SpooksHD while you're at it. And it works over and over again, so we can chat to it again. Hello, welcome to Brooklyn. I'm the mayor, and I'm glad you're here. Subscribe to SpooksHD while you're at it. And like I said, the rotation part, we could be facing this way. And we could still be facing towards NPC. So, anyways, that is about it, everyone. I know this one was a bit longer, but it makes sense that way. It's better to finish it off long. Anyways, I want to say thank you guys so much for the support over this time. You guys smashed the first part, and I want to say thank you for that. And here's the second part. So if you guys love this video, go ahead and leave a like. And if you're having trouble, go ahead and leave a comment down below. I'll probably help you. Someone might. Hopefully the community is good enough for you. And yeah, so go ahead and subscribe if you haven't, and leave a like if this helped you, and go ahead and comment if you do have troubles. Anyways, like always, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.